All right. It is about that time. We're getting ready to lock up and get on out of here and get back to the house. But I did have a couple subscribers request a long-term wrench review and what kind of wrenches that I currently have here at work, which ones I have used at work, and which ones I've actually taken home after trying them out and now have become home tools. So with that being said, we're getting ready to roll right into my brief little intro of 55 seconds. So if you don't want to watch it, skip ahead and we'll see you back here in a second. I'm right here in front of my service cart and my US General 56. I've got both the wrench drawers open, okay? You guys already know how I operate out of this one. It's pretty much a bang it up, beat it up, overflow box, holds everything else that I don't quite use on a daily, but when I need it and it's there, okay? So a lot of this, and I'm gonna show you little panoramic shots and picture clips of the wrenches that I have in here. Not everything is exactly organized, but some of the organizers I did decide to keep, and the rest of it just kind of lays loosely in there. We're going to start off with the weird angled wrenches that I mentioned yesterday that I got from Snap-on. I picked up 2 more, right, to add to my little collection here of the ones most commonly used by me. I'm really shooting for the bigger sizes because those are the ones that I actually need in an angle wrench. But we got, like I said, the 10 millimeter, the 13, the 3/4 inch, the 7/8, the 1 inch and the 1 1/16. 7/8 and the 1 1/16 come in handy, especially the 1 inch too, right? Lots of AC fittings, EGR, fasteners that torque on down to the manifold itself up to the EGR, things like that. I got this weird 9/16 and 5/8 CRAFTSMAN Professional, okay, nice shiny chrome. Had this for a minute. I believe this is the made in China one because we picked this up at the Sears down in Palm Desert before they closed. But this little moon shape or crescent shape style has come into some handy spots, especially when doing torque converter bolts on RVs, okay? Because there's not a lot of room to move there and you only have so much room to get a wrench in. And that's where that actually kind of came in handy, especially on them Fords. That's the one I was thinking of. Okay, this other wrench here, this is a 9/16 1/2 inch. This isn't made in USA. I did pick this up a while back from the Sears up in Oregon when I was working at the Sears Auto Center up there, and I've been using it pretty much ever since. Chrysler transfer cases is like a prime example. They've got 9/16, 14 millimeter. I've made the comment before, you guys might have forgotten, but there is definitely a lot of similarity between 14 millimeter and 9/16, okay? And it's not that they are the same. Obviously, one's SAE, one's metric, but if you were to take 4 14 millimeters, each of a different brand, you're gonna find that the tolerance differences is so indifferent between sizes that maybe one of those or 2 of those might not fit a 14 millimeter nut. And if you took 4 9/16 and stacked them all side by side, there's a good chance that 1 or 2 might not fit the 9/16, but a 14 might, right? So tolerance differences between manufacturers result in like an over purchasing of wrenches, as you can see here. All right, so this other one that I picked up out of the service car is the made in China specials, right? These are the CRAFTSMAN double box end wrench, got a 5 to 7 degree angle to it. They've definitely come in handy. I love them for oil changes and things like that, but also holding steering and suspension components together because I go up to the bigger size here too. 7/8, 3/4 inch is my most commonly used one. 13, 15, 12, 14, right? I do have a full metric set of the right angle or whatever you want to call them, angled wrench, box end wrench, double box end. And this is the entire metric set, and I've used these a handful of times, but none so much as that 9/16 1/2 inch that I showed you. I probably use that a lot. okay? I've had those now for approximately, I would say 3 years. Same thing with the double box in about 3 years. Same thing with this weird crescent one, about 3 years or so, 2 years maybe. This one I picked up about 10 years back, so that's 10 years special. These snap-on angle ones that I previously mentioned, forgot to tell you guys how long, maybe within the last few weeks, okay? The last 3 weeks I've always bought like a couple leading up to it. We're gonna go into some of these oversizes. I picked these up within the last 12 months. This is really what started me on my big wrench kit, okay? This is the oversized or jumbo Craftsman set of made in China wrenches that I picked up from Lowe's. Those things have come in handy, and I bought them in SAE because I already had some oversized metric. The oversized metric I carry in GEARWRENCH, I go up to, I believe it's 32. Yep, got my 32 down there in the bottom, George, I'll show you. But at any rate, 30, 27, 24, 22, 23. I've got it pretty much from 22 all the way up to 32. A couple skips or whatever. Crescent wrench. Talk about this adjustable wrench real quick. I've got 3. Okay, I've got this big old 15-inch Pittsburgh. Okay, picked this thing up a long time ago. Yes, the metal is soft. I'll show you an up close of that, but it does work for some big stuff. But it's almost too big to get into certain places. You're going to hear there's a new tool channel I stumbled across. I think it says it's for the love of tools. This guy was actually showing his angle wrenches, and there are some things. There's going to be some situations where you just can't get something that has this big of a head. And that's for the diesel guys, or anyone that works on diesels knows that you just want a wrench, because the head difference alone with how big it opens up is what the actual point of buying oversized wrenches are. And sometimes you just got fasteners that are 12 point that are that big that you need something for, especially if you don't have a socket. Okay, now down in here, I'm just going to point and shoot here. But I got, these are the 0-degree offset snap-on. Okay, I've had these for probably about 6 years now, maybe 7. This is when there was a snap-on rep, the name of John, who ran the route. This is one of the first snap-on tools I had picked up moving down here to the lower desert. And I actually bought these off of a recommend, okay? Eric the car guy had these 0-degree offset wrenches, swore they were like the be-all, end-all. They were being by Mac Tools. We didn't have a Mac Tools rep that had, that was in our area, so I went ahead and I picked these up, took the dive, and I do love them. That 0-degree offset does come in handy again. Most of these weird style wrenches that I have usually comes down to some kind of torque converter bolt that I had a hard time getting to. So on Chryslers, between the oil pan and the torque converter bolt, you ain't got much room. I mean, we're talking maybe inch and a half, no more than 2 inches between the oil pan and where the actual torque converter bolt is. You cannot fit a shallow or even a super shallow socket with a ratchet in there. It's just not gonna happen. The elbow style is almost too big too. So what are you left with? 0-degree offsets. So those do come in handy from time to time. I have used them for suspension components as well on the Jeeps, where you have to dive it in between the frame to hold the fastener, things like that. Okay, these icons, I'm not gonna pull the whole kit out, but I got a whole set here, and I'll put a little video picture or whatever down here in the corner for you of these icon crow's feet. I haven't had the opportunity to use them, but I'm telling you, for the main crow's feet that I use is definitely an SAE. I probably use SAE crow's feet more than I do metric, which is why I had not purchased the metric set. Hadn't had a purpose to use the open-end ones yet. Have had a purpose and reason to use. We'll talk about these because I just got those a few months back. But I got these right here. These are made by Sunex, and I've been rocking these things for about 3 to 4 years, somewhere in there. I think about the metric set when I was in Chrysler, and I bought the SAE set when I came over here some 3.5, almost 4 years ago. And they have been kicking butt, man. At Chrysler, the metric set was all I needed. Come to the independent shop, now it seems like the SAE is pretty much all that I need. Okay, let's move on over here to the, well, we might as well cover the Icon stubby ratchet wrenches. So today would have been a perfect example to have the metric stubbies, because these were just short enough to get into an area that my boss needed to get to, only I had SAE and he needed a metric, right? So the metric, I didn't have them. So that's probably on a wish list to add to this, so that way we do have them in case we need something that short. But just goes to show you that even like my snap-on stubby wrench set that I have now, granted it's not ratcheting, but there's a big difference here in length. Now that was unfair of me, right? Because that was the metric set, which by the way, I have not only the metric, but I also have the standard. And I bought both of these while I was at community college, and I got that student discount of 50% off, and I've had them ever since, okay? But let's go ahead and take this now. This is a 9/16. Here's a 9/16. So if I put these side by side here for you, you can see a substantial length difference, okay? And one's ratcheting, the other one's not. So that's gonna be a situation for you to make a decision later if that's gonna help you to have one that's a little bit shorter that has the ratcheting capability. So that's why I picked up those. Haven't used them yet, been working on more like European and Asian, and even some of the more newer domestic platforms. Haven't worked on really anything that required me older truck-wise to use those ratchet wrenches yet. But we will get some use, and I'll do a review later on down the road. You know how I roll. Any rate, picked up these Matco extraction style combination wrenches. Now I have used these probably about a half a dozen times, and that's a bad day when you have to use something like this. But I have had to use them. They have come in handy. These are not an all-purpose combination wrench. Do not buy these thinking that it's going to be the be-all, end-all combination wrench. It's not. It's one of those super specialty wrenches that you wish that you had it, and if you have it, you don't have to wish for it, right? You know, what do they say? It's I'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So again, it's a specialty wrench, much like some of the other ones that I showed you here, that just comes in handy. Okay, so now talking about Matco, I'm going to jump back over here to the double box and flex head ratchet wrenches. Now I've had these probably for about 3 years, if I had to guess, maybe 2. Right around the same time frame that I started working here, I bought these because that 0-degree offset, this lip in here, it just stuck out just enough to where it was inconvenient, and I really needed a ratchet, right? And I think I was, if you guys remember Tyler, I don't know if you remember Tyler or not, he used to work here with me a while back when I first started, but he actually had something like this that flexed, and he was able to use it to get down into some tricky spots, break things loose. I think his were made by Mountain. Anyway, I bought these from my Matco rep because I like these better, flush, right? They didn't have the raised head. I wanted something more flush. I did have a problem with gearing with the 12-14 for a little bit, but then I had gotten that gear mechanism fixed. The gear wrench ratchet set, I'm not going to pull it all out. You guys have probably seen this numerous times before. These are just the fixed head ratchet wrenches that I've had since day one. I started over there at Sears Auto Center, I think, what was it, back in August of 2010 or something like that. I bought these. These were like one of the first pickups that I've had. Never had one break down or fail me. The only thing that I've most recently had to do was because I did not have these tappet wrenches. We're going to get into this in a minute. I did take some home. I was going to show you guys a little bit more up close, but we're already here, and I did have one left here. But these thin husky tappet wrenches, which I've had for probably about 8 to 12 months, okay, they've definitely come in handy. Don't quote me on that time frame, but if I had to guess, it's been just under a year of me having these, and I've been using the hell out of them because I think I bought them the last 6-liter that I did, which has probably been about 6 or 8 months from now. But at any rate, before I bought those, I took this gear wrench 10mm to the grinder, smoothed it down so I can get underneath this ground strap that was on a stud, and the nut was squeezing it down so much I couldn't get any wrench of any kind of thickness in there without making it super thin. So you sometimes just specialize your own tools, right? You customize them. Okay, speaking of flex heads, combinations, etc. Now I did lose my 13, but I do have one of these CRAFTSMAN 12mm stubby ratcheting flex head wrenches that I picked up when I was at Sears. I got a 12 and a 13. I lost a 13. Otherwise, had that for 10 years. The small handful of ratchet wrenches with the flex head that I've had these now, at least 2.5 years, maybe 3. I bought them as I needed them, right? I think the first pickup was a 10, then the 13 and 15, then I bought the 12, 14. I bought them as I needed them. You can see here I got into a situation where the flex head was just a little bit too wobbly on it, so I wrapped it with tape, but it worked out for me all right. So let me toss these back in here real quick. Okay, so there is last couple little wrenches here, and then I think that's pretty much going to do it for what it is that I have in my overflow and I have in my main service cart. So one of them, this distributor wrench, okay, this is like a 10-year-old pickup. 9/16 and ½ meant for distributors, right? When we were messing around with the dirt track car, we needed to get back there to that rear distributor bolt on the small block Chevys, and so I would use this quite a bit. I don't get much use out of it anymore. We leave that to the older guys, Tommy. If he's watching, I'm just playing with you, man. All right, I also picked up this 10mm, 8mm for the brake bleed screws on brake calipers. Funny thing is that I really haven't used it as often as I thought I would, because some more nowadays I'm starting to run into 11mm bleed screws, right? And it's just like, really? The other one that I have was, it was a 3/8 and a 5/16, and I had these angled ones that I bought from Snap-on. I had bought 8 and 10, and I bought a 5/16 and a 3/8. Those things were just angled out so much that I kept running into like the leaf springs and everything else. Really just kind of got in the way, so I got rid of those. I did maintain and keep this because this one actually did help out. But more times than not, I'm finding myself like, or it's just too long, or it's not the right angle, or it's not the right size. So I end up using a socket, right? Or a different wrench. So the other wrench, now this is one that I don't know that I'm missing it from the set of stubbies, or if I even had it to begin with. But there's been a couple times I needed an 8mm combination wrench and a stubby, and I just didn't have one. Even the gear wrench one that I had in the ratchet wrench, a little bit too long, right? Some of these other sets that go down to 8mm, way too long. I wanted a stubbier one, so I picked up the one Matco 8mm combination wrench. It's just a regular 12-point combination wrench. I have used that a couple dozen times in the last couple months of having it, and it's been useful. I'm going to go ahead and put everything away and get ready to get out of here and close things up. When I get back to the house, we'll sit on down, we'll talk about the wrenches and ratchet wrenches and all the other weird stuff that I have at home for home use, and then you guys will get a chance to see what I got there. And just know that some of these wrenches I did have here, and I've been inter-swapping things out as I see fit, because, you know, room, right?
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Justin again. As always, thanks for watching my channel. Welcome back to the Garage. So we are back, and you can see, yeah, I got a lot of icon in front of me, but I got some other things that I've had even longer that I want to show, tell, and just kind of explain how long I've had them for and what I like about them. I also did get one item in particular from a fellow subscriber many years back that was the tried and true that I used all the time at the independent shop before I ended up swapping them out with icon. And most recently, I've brought all my icon stuff home, for the exception of a couple of items. Because I'm using pretty much all GEARWRENCH at this point in time. Really want to put them through the paces and see how they perform overall. So let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Okay, we're going to keep it kind of short with the icon stuff, because I'm sure you guys have seen, heard. Some of you like it, some of you don't like it. Bottom line is that I am no longer endorsed by Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight and I get along great. I love the CEO and the owner. Okay, all of his guys on the Icon team and the welding team, and even over on the Hercules lineup. They've been absolutely great to me over the years. Okay, I've done content with Harbor Freight for many years leading up to it. They endorsed me for a short period of time. Over here to my right, you'll see that I did receive the reversible ratchet wrench style, both in metric and in the SAE from them. The metric stubbies I bought myself. The Icon non-ratcheting SAE and metric combination wrench set I bought myself. Those are in the 12-point. I bought both those and the stubbies from my own Harbor Freight, and I've thoroughly enjoyed all their wrenches. Okay, ratchet wrench, fixed head wrench. The offset, the amount of pressure I'm able to put behind them. Look, I haven't had any issues over the course of about 12 months. If you scroll back through all my previous videos, it's been approximately 12 months of me running these things almost on a daily basis. Okay, yeah, there are cars that come in that are more metric than they are SAE. But I do get my fair share of SAE use, and I have utilized these things and I've thoroughly enjoyed them, which is the reason why I decided to go with the fixed head. Because there are sometimes I don't want to double box in a wrench, meaning if I took one wrench, I needed more leverage, I could take the other and I could simply slip it on over, add leverage and force the fastener over. I haven't had any issues with premature wearing or any kind of scarring on these wrenches themselves. The ratchet wrenches have been phenomenal, to say the least. I do love the offset that they offer, and the 72 tooth design ratcheting mechanism has worked out well. I would not recommend double boxing these, however, because if you're putting an immense amount of pressure behind that ratcheting portion, you could damage it, and who wants to do that, right? Even if it was less expensive than Snap-on or Matco, I wouldn't want to do those with Snap-on, Matco, Icon, or any wrench really, because you shouldn't be double boxing a ratcheting wrench, okay, to say the least. But these have all worked out. Okay, the 10-year, okay, my Craftsman's, the tried and true. So I had these leading up to the Icon, okay, and I use these day in and day out, beating them up. These are the old Made in USA ones. Was one of my first purchases. At one point in time, I did have a set of these right here, the combination 12-point, as well as the combination 6-point. I didn't really care for the 6-point too much. I do recall giving them to a friend while I was in community college, so he had them. But I went ahead and I took every single teeny tiny ignition wrench that came with my full wrench kit that I had gotten, because I bought a master mechanic set. It was $500, right? Came in a red tin can toolbox looking deal. It came with all these little teeny tiny, I guess they called them ignition wrenches, so small, made out of the cheapest of cheap, barely had teeth on. They sucked. They were the worst things that I'd ever gotten for free out of any mechanic set. Lucky for me, I actually worked at Sears Auto Center, and a fellow employee that worked behind the register let me change each and every single one of them out, all the way down to a 6mm during that time frame. I can't fish it out, it's so small. But at any rate, yeah, I changed every single little ignition wrench out all the way down to the 6mm. I had questions before, Justin, why did you paint them red, and then why did you engrave them, etc. Like I said, tools have a tendency of walking away. You can engrave something, but oftentimes it might get overlooked, end up somewhere else. But if you painted them red and engraved them, I mean, at the shop, you were good to go. Everyone knew it was painted red, or in this case, it looks red, but it's actually a Chevy orange. I was very much into Chevrolet, small like Chevrolet. I love painting things Chevrolet orange. So I actually just took them and laid them out on a piece of cardboard and spray painted them. But these have held out great, okay? For tie rods, for busting suspension loose. They just never really failed me. I did turn around and make them an at-home set, was trying out some other ones. You guys know I've tried Carlisle in the past. They were all right. I think I sold those. I've had Snap-on, bought the Snap-on ones a while back from the community college. Ran those for a short period of time, sold those. I wanted to bring these up. I know I didn't talk too much about the Mac crescent wrench that I had in a 10-inch, or even the 5-inch Armstrong adjustable wrench that I had at work. I didn't talk about those too much, but I've had that Armstrong even longer than anything else. I've had that Armstrong adjustable wrench since 2005, 2006. I've had it for a long time, okay, about 14 years. That's probably the oldest tool that I actually own. But at any rate, I did buy these when I was at the Chrysler dealership, so it's been about 5-6 years now that I've had these. I bought these when Jeff was running his Cornwall route, and these things have been freaking awesome. And I've had these both back and forth. I've had them at the shop, I've had them at home. I've had them at the shop, I've had them at home. They have been great overall. They are very comfortable with this weird twisty handle that they have, but overall a little bit heavy, and I don't use an adjustable wrench all that often. When I do, it's usually my small little Armstrong one. It just gets just wide enough for me to use it for what I need it for, and then that's about it. The other one I use is my 10-inch Mac one. It gets down to that perfect size I need. Very rarely have I ever used that Pittsburgh one during the time frame that I've had it, and I've had it now for, like I said, maybe about 6 years as well. That thing was some cheap metal. It did leave a nice little scar when we were really putting some pressure behind it, and it kind of rounded the fastener a little bit and then dug into the metal a lot, right? So it just didn't work out, but it is nice that I got an oversized one, so if it's not snug down too tight, it does work, especially to open up a wide jaw. Moving on, the wrenches right here that I have in front of me. So these are made by Wright Grip. I had a subscriber a while back that mailed them out to me. Like I said, I've been using and abusing these things daily, double boxing them, whatever. Every time I've ran into a situation where I needed an SAE combination wrench, I've had them at my disposal, and they have held up great. They've worked great. I've loved having them, okay? So I want to say thank you to whomever that subscriber was. I'm sorry I forgot your name. It has been about 5-6 years now, so I apologize for forgetting your name. But if you're still watching the channel, I want to say I appreciate you and thank you very much, because they have been phenomenal. They might end up in somebody else's hands at one point in time, and they might get a chance to get their review on them. For right now, though, I'm going to jump back over here to the Icon real briefly, then we're going to wrap it up. So I have thoroughly enjoyed having the Icon, both in the fixed head as well as the ratchet wrench style. If it wasn't for the fact that I'm really trying to put those gear wrench 6 points to the full test, and the only way I know how to do that is to remove the wrenches that I have, right? And then just leave that as my only option, then I'd have my Icons there. The reversible ratchet wrench style, like I had talked about previously, look, I've loved and enjoyed using these, and they have worked out in some tricky situations, and I've thoroughly enjoyed them overall. But realistically, with all the flex head ratchet wrenches that I've had, I find myself using those more because I do need a little bit more of an arc than what is currently here. So it's not saying that it's a bad ratchet wrench by any means. They clearly have some leverage. They have the ability to ratchet, which is nice. But sometimes sometimes the length is too long. You know what I mean? And then other times, like I say, I need more of an angle. And that's where those flex heads really do it for me. So I use the flex heads at work. I brought these home. But I did have these at work, the fixed head in the metric as well as the SAE. But again, we want to put that gear wrench to the full set. I really want to give my honest opinion about how I feel about 6-point versus 12-point, and then share that with you a little bit later on down the road. Guys, that's pretty much going to wrap it up for tonight's video. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Thank you to the subscriber that asked for the long-term wrench review. If you guys have any other videos that you would like to see me cover or talk about, please feel free to share them down in the comments. Yes, I have heard your pleas for an upgraded Jamestown/toolbox tour. I can tell you right now, I haven't really done anything different or really added anything different to either one of those boxes outside of what you would have already seen so far. But I will consider doing an upgraded tour of one, the other, or just both, all in one quick little video just to show you what changed. Because realistically, just go back and watch the video that I did at the Jamestown as well as the Harbor Freight 56, and you'll have more than a better idea of what it is that I'm rocking and rolling with on a day-to-day. But I will do a quick little overview, maybe during next week's Cool Tool Tuesday, and just briefly kind of show you what changed, and then we'll move forward from there. Because like I said, not really a lot has changed enough for me to really want to recover the entire layout of either one of those boxes. Those videos take a long time to do, and I just don't see any extra added benefit by recovering information that we've already covered. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Thanks as always for watching. Cheers to those of you that have your beers, and I hope you enjoy your Friday Eve, because tomorrow is TGIF. Say it with me, TGIF. That's right, and payday for some of you. So we'll see you guys next time. Cheers and deuces.